Taylor Swift was officially subpoenaed. We know this to not just be rumor, it is official because her rep is officially speaking to TMZ and People.
It started with one text, a message Blake Lively sent during the height of a tense legal standoff with It Ends With Us director Justin Baldoni. In it, she called herself Khaleesi, a reference to Game of Thrones, and claimed she had a few dragons by her side. One of those dragons, she wrote, was Taylor Swift. This message was later submitted into official court documents as evidence. According to Justin Baldoni's legal complaint, the text wasn't just some inside joke between friends. It was used to justify Blake's push for creative control, to show that she had powerful support behind her.
Now you see text messages in this lawsuit from Blake Lively comparing herself to the heroine of Game of Thrones, the fiercest female character we've seen in years.
And to subtly intimidate Baldoni into giving her what she wanted. By name-dropping Taylor Swift in a legal context, Blake wasn't just invoking celebrity. She was tying Taylor's name directly to a heated legal dispute without permission. The text read like a threat wrapped in metaphor. Blake said, "If you ever get around to watching Game of Thrones, you'll appreciate that I'm Khaleesi, and like her, I happen to have a few dragons. My dragons protect the ones I fight for. Taylor Swift is one of them." The meaning was clear. Taylor was supposedly on her side, ready to unleash influence and legal weight if needed, and she didn't stop there. In other communications, Blake referenced Taylor as being present in meetings. It's where critical script rewrites were discussed, where casting was argued, and where Blake was demanding more authority over the film.
She's been subpoenaed. She's really furious about it. But anyways, today, the Daily Mail did a story saying that Taylor Swift believes Blake Lively exploited her.
According to the legal filings, Blake positioned Taylor as more than a bystander. She presented her as a co-signing witness, someone who had reviewed her rewritten scenes, praised her version of the script, and sat beside her in a showdown meeting inside Blake's Tribeca penthouse. That meeting, attended by Baldoni, Ryan Reynolds, and allegedly Taylor Swift, was a turning point. Baldoni's legal team claims that Blake used the gathering not to negotiate, but to corner him. She brought her dragons to the table. Ryan hyped her rewrite. Taylor's presence, silent or not, was used as proof that Blake had the upper hand. Taylor Swift didn't even know she was being weaponized. Her team would later confirm in an official statement to TMZ that she had zero creative involvement in It Ends With Us.
Well, Blake Lively can forget about packing her bags for New Orleans this weekend.
I guess she can go.
She can still go to the Super Bowl.
She's just not going to get the best suite, that's for sure.
She will not be in Taylor Swift's suite.
She wasn't in casting meetings. She didn't read or edit the script. She didn't consult on scenes. She didn't even step foot on set. During the entire production, she was overseas on her Eras tour, headlining the biggest global stadium run in history. In other words, Blake Lively had fabricated a role for Taylor in the development of a film, and then used that fabrication as leverage in a courtroom battle. When Baldoni's attorney, Brian Friedman, reviewed the messages and timeline, he realized the implications immediately. Taylor wasn't just a background figure. She had been inserted into the narrative as a tool, a pawn. A celebrity chess piece to make Blake's claims seem more legitimate. This single message, the so-called dragon text, wasn't just reckless.
Bad blood between Taylor Swift and BFF Blake Lively? Don't count on it, as Blake's legal battle with former co-star Justin Baldoni continues to play out in the headlines.
It was strategic manipulation, caught in black and white, submitted to court, and now permanently embedded in legal records. For Taylor Swift, it was betrayal at the highest level. Her trust, her image, and her global brand reputation, all dragged into a courtroom battle she never asked to be part of. Justin Baldoni's legal team didn't waste time. As soon as Blake Lively's text messages and claims involving Taylor Swift were entered into the record, they struck back hard. On May 8th, 2025, a formal subpoena was issued to Taylor Swift, dragging her into the lawsuit not as a friend, not as a supporter, but as a legal witness. It didn't matter that she hadn't volunteered, hadn't made any public statements, or had no real involvement.
That she was more involved than she was to make more people go and watch the movie because Taylor Swift has so many fans.
Her name had been used, her presence had been leveraged, And now the court wanted answers. The subpoena wasn't vague. It called for Taylor's testimony and possibly relevant documents or communications related to Blake, the film, or any meetings where creative decisions were discussed. Justin Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman, argued that Blake had created the illusion that Taylor co-signed her behavior, and that illusion had real consequences. Because Blake built her legal strategy on the narrative that Taylor supported her creative rewrites, the court had to treat Taylor as a potentially crucial witness, even though in reality she had no idea she was part of the plot.
And denying any involvement with Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, and the movie It Ends With Us. Now, we know this is not true.
Her spokesperson released a scathing statement, one of the most aggressive public responses from Swift's camp since the 2019 Scooter Braun Masters scandal. The message was surgical, direct, and unmistakably furious. It read, "Taylor Swift never set foot on the set of this movie. She was not involved in any casting or creative decisions. She did not score the film. She never saw an edit or made any notes on the film. She did not even see It Ends With Us until weeks after its public release." The wording was intentional. It wasn't softened with vague phrases or polite detachment. It was a legal slap across the face to anyone trying to imply otherwise, especially Blake Lively. Swift's team emphasized that Taylor's only connection to the film was the licensing of one song, My Tears Ricochet.
She's the mother of dragons in Game of Thrones, and that's what Blake Lively says in a text message, that she too has her dragons, Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift. That's, again, believed to be the other person.
Alongside 19 other artists featured on the soundtrack. That was it. There was no collaboration, no creative input, and no behind-the-scenes influence. Taylor's lawyers called the subpoena what it was, a publicity stunt. They said Blake's legal team wasn't seeking justice, they were seeking attention. The subpoena wasn't about uncovering truth, it was about exploiting Taylor's name to draw headlines, shift blame, and distract from the shaky foundation of Blake's case. Behind the scenes, Taylor's legal team began exploring ways to challenge or quash the subpoena, arguing that it was a misuse of the court system. They hinted that Blake had manipulated the situation, not only to influence the film's direction, but to weaponize Taylor's reputation to intimidate and control Justin Baldoni during production disputes. The backlash was swift and wide-reaching. Taylor fans, already protective of their idol's boundaries and privacy, flooded social media with outrage. Legal experts began commenting on the unusual nature of the subpoena, noting how rare it was for a celebrity of Taylor Swift's stature to be pulled into litigation so aggressively, especially when she had nothing to do with the case. What made the entire situation even more volatile was the fact that this wasn't just a legal fight. It was a personal betrayal. Taylor wasn't just blindsided by the subpoena, she was blindsided by a friend. A woman she had shared holidays with, posed beside at red carpets, trusted around her family, and included in the tightest corners of her life. And now, that same friend had used her name, her image, and her credibility like a shield in a courtroom war that Taylor had never signed up for. The legal circus was in full motion, and Taylor Swift was done pretending it was just a misunderstanding. Just 3 days after Taylor Swift's subpoena was made public, fans noticed something that stopped them in their tracks. Travis Kelce, Taylor's boyfriend and NFL superstar, unfollowed Ryan Reynolds on Instagram. No press statement, no explanation, just a quiet tap of the unfollow button that sent a very loud message. This wasn't just social media drama. This was a targeted signal. In the digital world of celebrities, where every like, follow, and comment is monitored, an unfollow isn't a glitch.
Has impacted the It Ends With Us star's friendship with Taylor. However, when it comes to the rumor, a source confirms to E! News it's not true.
It's a statement. And in this case, it was a clear line in the sand. Ryan Reynolds wasn't just a Hollywood actor, he was Blake Lively's husband, a longtime friend of Taylor, a fixture in her inner circle. And now, he was on the outside. Fans caught it almost immediately. Social media lit up, Swifties flooded threads connecting the dots. The timeline didn't lie. Taylor gets subpoenaed, dragged into a lawsuit she had no part in, and within days, her partner severs the digital tie to the man married to the woman who caused it all. It wasn't petty, it was surgical. Just days later, Gigi Hadid, one of Taylor's closest friends and most high-profile allies, threw a massive 30th birthday bash in New York City. The guest list was a who's who of Taylor's world. Taylor was there, Selena Gomez was there, Zoe Kravitz was there, even Cara Delevingne showed up, dressed to the nines. It was a parade of Swift's inner sanctum. But Blake Lively was completely absent. No paparazzi shots, no social posts, no tagged photos, nothing. It wasn't a scheduling conflict either. Blake was photographed walking alone through Tribeca that same weekend, coffee in hand, dressed casually in what the press called a calculated outfit, meant to suggest normalcy. But there was nothing normal about her exclusion. This wasn't a missed invite. It was a deliberate omission. For years, Blake had been a staple in Taylor's circle. She'd attended Taylor's 4th of July parties. She'd been photographed vacationing with her. Their kids played together. Blake had even reportedly referred to Taylor as the godmother of her children. But now, when it counted most, when Taylor was reeling from being used in a legal battle, Blake was cut off. No one in Taylor's camp addressed it publicly. They didn't have to. The message was delivered through action, not words. The doors had closed. And in Hollywood, where relationships are built on optics, these moves mattered. The unfollow from Travis wasn't just a boyfriend defending his partner, it was a strategic loyalty play, a line of defense, a clear refusal to remain connected to a family, Blake and Ryan, that had exploited Taylor's name for personal and legal gain. And Blake's exclusion from Gigi's party wasn't just a social slight, it was confirmation.
A lot of her fans, including Taylor probably, and T-Pain, her rep, are blaming Justin. Wow, he is bringing her into this. I can't believe he's doing this. He's gonna see his day.
Confirmation that Taylor wasn't simply hurt, she was done. That her inner circle, fiercely protective and impossibly tight, had locked her out. On May 2nd, Blake Lively appeared on NBC's Late Night with Seth Meyers, a show known more for political comedy and celebrity charm than for controversy. But that night, the mood was different. The moment the interview aired, backlash ignited like wildfire, spreading across YouTube, Twitter, Reddit, and beyond. It didn't take long before NBC made an unprecedented move. They completely disabled the comments on the YouTube upload of Blake's segment. Not held for review, not hidden under a flood of moderation filters. Gone. All comments blocked instantly. For a mainstream network like NBC, which thrives on engagement, views, and ad revenue, this was a drastic, desperate reaction. Disabling comments on a celebrity interview, especially one with someone as high profile as Blake Lively, isn't standard protocol. It's a PR crisis move, a digital white flag. The decision didn't come from Seth Meyers. It came from above his pay grade, from NBC's executive team, who clearly realized too late that putting Blake in front of a camera at that moment was a catastrophic misread. And viewers noticed. Swifties flooded other NBC comment sections asking why Blake's interview had been scrubbed of public interaction. Twitter was overflowing with screenshots of the blank YouTube comment box. TikTok creators dissected the footage, calling out Blake's performance and labeling the interview a tone-deaf attempt to control the narrative. But even more brutal was what happened on the show itself, Seth's infamous corrections segment. For context, corrections is Seth's running bit where he jokes about mistakes from earlier episodes. But this time, he broke character. He made a subtle but clear joke about not doing enough research before certain guests appear. The audience laughed, but viewers at home picked up on it immediately. It wasn't a random joke. It was a quiet acknowledgement that the Blake Lively interview had been a misstep.
So Seth Meyers apparently thinks it's really funny all the backlash that he received after having Blake Lively on his show.
Even Seth, known for avoiding celebrity drama, couldn't resist taking a jab because the backlash was too overwhelming to ignore. So why did NBC book her in the first place? The answer isn't hidden in rumors. It's in financial records and corporate ties. Blake's husband, Ryan Reynolds, may have sold Mint Mobile to T-Mobile in 2023, but he remained the face of the brand, continuing to appear in ads and having direct influence over marketing strategies. And Mint Mobile? It's one of the key sponsors of Late Night with Seth Meyers. This wasn't a coincidence. This was business. Ryan Reynolds has long-standing relationships with NBC Universal. His production company, Maximum Effort, has deals in place with media partners tied to NBC. When you follow the money, the appearance becomes crystal clear. Blake was booked not because she had a compelling story, but because she had corporate power backing her. NBC didn't expect the public to connect those dots, but they did. Swifties aren't casual fans. They're digitally literate, organized, and relentless when they believe someone has crossed a line with Taylor. And they saw right through the PR stunt. What should have been a basic late-night interview became a digital disaster, dragging Seth into a mess he likely never agreed to host. Behind the scenes, NBC reportedly scrambled. Internal staff were said to be blindsided by the backlash. Seth's social media team limited their activity. NBC's official YouTube channel made no additional promotional posts. And just like that, a major network was forced to retreat, all because they underestimated just how toxic Blake Lively's brand had become after dragging Taylor Swift into a legal war she never asked to fight. The message was clear. No amount of media spin, corporate sponsorships, or polished interviews could clean up the fallout. Not when Swift's name had been used without consent, not when Blake's narrative had already collapsed under sworn testimony and subpoenaed records.